it's the perfect opportunity for those entry-level roles to be completely reimagined instead of reduced.
Welcome back, Emily, to another studio session of truth-telling.
Thanks.
What's been on your mind this week?
Oh, just getting annoyed and fired up, really, you know.
Oh, what a surprise. Come on, tell me.
Okay, so I've been slightly frustrated by the ongoing discourse about reduction in entry-level jobs.
Okay.
Especially because I remember my graduate days very fondly, and I remember people giving me an opportunity at entry level. And so it's just a passion topic for me. So first, some stats around what's being said. There's the CEO of Anthropic, so big AI thought leader, basically saying that in the next 5 years, 50% of entry-level jobs should be replaced by AI.
Wow.
And at the same time, you have the World Economic Forum, their jobs predicting report, basically saying that around 40% of especially entry-level jobs will see a reduction in workforce for employers.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's immense, really, isn't it?
Yeah, it's huge predictions.
What do you think this means for talent, for employer branding, for culture?
Well, the thing that's been getting my goat and frustrating me is you have people like Leo Harrison from Chapter 2, who's the culture agency that Stephen Bartlett's just invested in, basically saying, okay, so the hot take is talent need to be ready to embrace AI, and, you know, young talent need to be not seeing AI as a threat, but seeing it as an opportunity for their job prospects.
Sorry, could we just pause there? Do you know a single young person who sees AI as a threat?
Not really.
I honestly, I don't. I find that comment kind of remarkable, because all of the young people I know are just seeing AI as part of how they live their lives now, just as you and I would have done with having wireless internet. I feel like that's the same for these guys. This is how they live and work.
But also it frustrates me because it's a hot take that again places the burden of change onto young graduates who are coming out, who are just trying to get jobs, who are already AI natives, who are just seeing their opportunities eroded in a really short-term, really short-sighted industry. And they're ready and willing to change. They're probably more embracing of change than a lot of the people who are established in these organizations.
Especially technology-enabled and driven change, I think, without a doubt. Well, you know, it's one of my pet hates, and something I'm always trying to help clients avoid, is when we place the burden of responsibility, of change, of inclusion, whatever it is, on the employee without actually looking at the system that surrounds them. And I think there's probably a systemic issue here, isn't there?
Totally. If you think about it, we see entry-level jobs, and if you read what the Anthropic CEO is talking about, they're all talking, these AI leaders, about, you know, we're going to get rid of the grunt work, we're going to get rid of the monotonous tasks, we're going to get rid of the data input that all of these graduates have been doing. And the reality is, I think that's such a dated view of what an entry-level position can and should be. I see these roles as disruptor roles. They're roles where you get new, young, interesting talent in who are fresh to an industry, look at it with fresh eyes, and have the power to bring new ideas to the table. If you only see your entry-level graduates as doers of grunt work and administrative work, then of course you're going to be reducing that workforce, because why do you need that when you've got AI to do it? But that's just limiting.
So there's something in the definition of what an entry-level job is. I think also it's really unhelpful to even describe it as grunt work, isn't it? Because we've already labelled it as work that is not helpful to an organisation.
Not valuable to an organisation.
And potentially, you know, grunt work almost feels as hindering an organisation at some level. I think I find it interesting also with that definition, because if we're looking at the executional type work, what we're only doing then is focusing on that execution, which of course AI can take away. But what we're not looking at is all the stuff that happens around that does benefit the employer in the long run, but also obviously benefits this talent audience. When we think of, you know, that they, in these early years of your career, you are learning through and by proximity, right? You're learning how relationships form, you're learning your future leadership style, you're learning how to make good judgments in the workplace. And I do sort of feel like if we're going to take away the executional layer, then we cannot expect the same level of growth, because you've taken away the growth opportunity.
Yeah.
And that leads me to think, okay, so for those organizations that are doing that, what are we saying for L&D then, for learning and development for our younger generations? Because if we're taking away these big learning opportunities, we need to then reimagine, how do they learn culture, office norms, politics? How do they learn the early things you need to set you in good stead? you can't take away the function and then expect the same growth.
Yeah, absolutely. And also, where is the succession planning?
Totally.
So, okay, you've just reduced your workforce. Now you have a smaller pool of talent to choose from. Let's assume that not all of that talent you have to choose from are future leaders. You've reduced that pool of talent and you're not able to go through a selection process, through a process of on-the-job assessment to see who are the best talent, who are the big thought leaders, who are the exciting new leaders of the future that you want to surface. You're actually reducing that pool.
Yeah, I think there is a real danger of this ending up being a sort of top-heavy, brittle organisation that is low on generational depth, because there is real depth that comes from a multi-generational workforce. But also on, as you say, on succession planning. I think it's short-sighted, and perhaps the error here is conflating short-term sort of efficiencies with like long-term shape of a business. And I wonder if there's something in needing to think about what that balance really is.
Also, don't you want this young talent training and developing your AI solutions rather than having more experienced leaders do that? Because actually all they're training it is in the systems and processes and models and ways of working they know. Wouldn't you rather have some young, disruptive talent? And I'm assuming entry level is young, it's not always, but some disruptive talent coming into your workforce and saying, well, actually, if we're going to train AI to do it, why don't we rethink the way we've always done it?
Totally. Yeah. And using them in that sort of reverse mentoring style and actually trying to amplify and augment the work that's happening rather than just assuming that they'll weaken it.
Are we also pursuing efficiency at the loss of wisdom and real intelligence, like you say, that real depth?
I think there is always going to be now with AI, this chase for efficiency. We feel it in our own work at a business level. There is the opportunity now to be more efficient than ever before, but at what risk? And I think for businesses, for cultures, we've got to weigh that up with what we gain with efficiency, what do we lose, and is it worth it?
Yeah. Well, we lose future talent, apparently.
Or we certainly lose them at that level. I mean, I'm sure these organisations aren't saying they'll never hire a young person ever again, but we're certainly going to lose, by the sounds of it, that operational level.
But what are they supposed to do then? Just train themselves for 3 or 4 years until they're at the level where an organisation's ready to hire them?
This is that age-old thing, which I'm sure you've come across. I certainly did in the early stages of my career, is saying, "Well, we can't hire you because you need to be experienced." Well, I need to get hired to get experience,
exactly.
man. So,
exactly.
like, I don't know how these youngsters will find that. What we also know now is that education isn't keeping up. My niece recently dropped out of a graphic design degree because she could see that graphic design as an industry was changing and sadly getting decimated through the technological advancements that we've got. Obviously, for all the creatives listening, I still believe in the power of creativity, but the graphic design that she was working through on this course will not be the same.
It's almost
by the time
outdated.
she'd even finished the course, it would be, but that year it would have been outdated.
Yeah.
She dropped out because she was like, this isn't keeping up. And I said to her, I was like, go and ask your lecturers, what are they doing? What is the AI plan for this course? And she was like, there isn't one.
Wow.
So what we have now is potentially organisations that don't want entry-level workers and an education system that won't change quick enough to support them. So where do they land?
I guess then you start to see AI as a teacher and you go, okay, I'm going to figure out how to do something completely different myself. What you might see is a rise in entrepreneurialism.
I did wonder that, yeah.
Which would be wonderful for entrepreneurialism, but would suck for the companies that could have really used that entrepreneurial spirit in their organizations.
True. And I think if we look at it from an entrepreneurship perspective, the most successful startups are those that are run by people in their 40s.
Who've had that benefit of experience and
wisdom,
seen the problem.
Years, experience, time to understand and experience it, and then to have made mistakes and to have got to this point. And I think whilst I can imagine there being a raft of new entrepreneurs, I also wonder of their success rate without having had the ability to filter their experiences through work, career, life,
So if we were reimagining for our clients the idea of the entry-level role, how could you reimagine it? Especially for sort of white collar.
Yeah, well, this is really thinking about what is the growth that we need in these people, because if it's not going to be a manual, like functional skill set, because we believe this will be replaced by AI, what are the skills that organization our organization actually needs. I suspect there'll be some soft skills in there in terms of resilience, adaptability, emotional intelligence. I think there'll be things there that we will need more than ever in an AI world. But I also suspect there's going to be a lot more around the business acumen, the leadership, because if you've got something that can do your grunt work for you, how are you actually going to sharpen that and use it as a commercial advantage?
Yeah, absolutely.
What do you think?
No, I agree with you. I actually was wondering about a theory I had, and this is a little bit left field, but we always think of the senior people as the thinkers and the visionaries, right?
Yeah.
But they're going to be increasingly reliant on AI to do some of that thinking for them. And they're going to start building systems and processes that are AI driven. And they're going to maybe be less on the cutting edge of reinventing and reimagining those systems and processes. So what if you end up with an inverted system where actually your senior leaders are executing on the basis of what AI has built and trained them to do, and you have more entry-level talent coming in and disrupting what that AI should be trained on, rethinking the models that it should be programmed to achieve, and your leaders sort of follow that thinking?
Well, I guess the thing that I struggle with is that theory rests on the idea that the leaders will be open enough to use and augment their skill set with AI. I think a certain generation of leaders, absolutely yes. But I do think that there's another subset that maybe not, maybe have got their 3 years of tenure, 3 years of experience. Maybe they fit a typical leadership profile and maybe they don't need it.
But that's what I mean. They execute.
But
right?
what I'm
They're
wondering
not
is
planning.
whether the AI literate generation will come in and be a massive disruptor for people, for those sorts of leaders. And how welcome will that be? You can imagine some cultures that we've worked with, that not being welcome, that kind of disruption being actually a rebellion, something that's there not to push the business forward, but actually to disrupt it. I can imagine some leaders not wanting that at all in their younger generation.
True.
I wonder if they'll want it as much. They'll only want it at the level where it gets the job done faster and cheaper. But the minute it becomes that they're thinking for themselves, they're challenging the status quo, at that point it will say, no, don't use AI anymore, please.
But that's where your younger generation or your new generation is going to become empowered, because they'll be able to come in with that disruptive mindset, but they'll also be able to use the AI tools at their disposal to be able to present that business case
and
up
tell
the
that
chain.
story. Yeah.
Like, that's where it gets really powerful, right? So I've used the AI tool, which has all of our business processes, all of our current ways of working, and I've used that with my disruptive thought to reprogram it and rethink about the way it could work and show you a business case. Like, suddenly you've got a lot of power in the hands of the next gen that they just wouldn't have had that expertise before or be able to apply expertise. But that expertise is now hard coded into your AI systems in theory.
I love that. I'm I guess to throw another one in the works then, do you think that they would be able to have that level of influence and persuasion if they haven't gone through the process of growing up in an organization, of changing jobs, having done some of those entry-level things where you learn how to do that?
Maybe.
And in remote businesses where you perhaps don't see the very, very compelling conversations of persuasive leaders or up-and-coming people to learn from in the first place.
It's okay, they can just watch Diary of a CEO.
Oh, thank God, Stephen Bartlett will save the day.
There's content available for that. You can basically do a mini MBA by just watching YouTube.
Well, you can imagine how I feel about that.
Yeah, exactly. Well, no, I take your point. I think experience is important, but I think
it's crucial. I don't think it's just important. I worry about the future generations and their ability to be compelling, powerful leaders without having had that face-to-face time, observing, watching, cultural osmosis, all of the above. I don't know how they'll do it sat on their computers doing AI.
It is a huge worry.
I know I sound like a grandma.
No, you don't. But I see that experience window or that experience time frame being shortened by AI and by access to thought leadership and by access to all of this great content that we now have available. I also think that there is a world in which it's okay to fake it a bit before you make it. I don't think you necessarily need to jump through every single business hoop. I think you see entrepreneurs who haven't had those years and years of experience still doing fantastically well because they bring a different way of thinking. They don't actually need to have learned from others. So I think there's something in that I think AI expedites. If I think about myself as a grad, I had an amazing internship. I don't know if you ever went through this process, but I blagged my way into an advertising agency internship. I definitely didn't know at all what I was doing. So shout out to Dare Digital, pioneering ad agency at the time.
So you saw the potential very early on.
Saw the potential, took pity on a grad who decided to sing in her interview. That's a story.
You sung in your interview. Okay.
I did. So basically it was a sort of talent show style grad scheme. So you had to present a new product and pitch it sort of Dragon's Den style with an ad campaign, marketing campaign, etc. So ballsy McConfident here is like, I know I'm going to develop a product called the Love Buster. The Love Buster solved a critical problem, which was the proliferation of loved up couples over Valentine's Day. I was not in one myself, so I was frustrated by all these kissing couples and PDA. And I developed a badge, which you could push with sort of an emergency button, and a person would come out and basically sort of tackle any couples that were engaging in PDA. So I shot this ad campaign with my friend Paul, my housemate at the time, and we had a full sort of dramatic scenario.
But how does this get to you singing?
So then when I did my pitch, I sort of started singing All You Need Is Love.
Okay.
And then
at
I
least
was
it wasn't
like,
Tina Turner.
Or do you? Some people don't need love. Some people don't want it. They don't want it in their face. They don't want it in their lives.
In comes the Love Buster.
That's basically it. I do actually have a CD-ROM of the ad campaign that I will convert at some point and put on LinkedIn.
Okay. Well, do you know what? First. I couldn't have learned that through AI.
It worked though.
Yeah, you got the job. And here she is.
Anyway, long story short.
Long story long.
Long story long. I do think that grad scheme was very valuable. But what they did was put me in a room pretty quickly with senior clients. They had me at some point quite early on going to interview John Malkovich in Paris.
What a life she's had. I was literally advising people on their pensions at this point in my life.
I mean, they trusted me, but part of it was massive fake it till you make it, massive blagging on my part. But I think they also saw, this is interesting, what happens when instead of putting a senior creative director who's quite formal into a room with a talent, what if we send the intern and see what she can get out of him? And I got much better material than the seasoned creative director.
I'm not surprised to hear that, which is a lovely story, by the way. I really wonder, like, what would have been different if you'd had AI for that process? Would you have been better? Would you have been more persuasive? Would you have charmed John Malkovich in the same way?
I think I might have over-prepared.
Exactly. You'd have been scripted and robotic and probably quite slogany.
How do you talk to?
Yeah. Or like even that Love Buster thing, you'd have ended up with such a
corporate speak.
You'd have had such a like, it's not this, it's that. Yeah. This is the start of da-da-da.
Yeah.
And
we're changing an industry.
People would have seen right through it.
Yeah, it's
and
true.
I guess that's like, long story long, like coming full circle. Those are the moments that's where you learn and grow.
Yeah.
As a worker. I know how much AI will do and does do for all of us every day, but I fear a world where we miss those opportunities out.
You also miss the opportunity to fail and do things that might not work because you feel like you have to rely on a tried and tested approach.
And you, I agree, failure, yes, but also disagreement. Like your AI pretty much agrees with you all the time, man. Yeah. And like, I don't think it's helpful. I think healthy discourse, tension, friction are fundamental parts of a working life and experience. I think it creates better outcomes if you've got some sort of tension in the process. And I don't think having a yes man or bot is the path for that.
When you've worked with the most sort of interesting leaders or colleagues in the past, for me, it's been the people that have their sort of unique approach or their slight quirks or the sort of hill they die on in terms of their beliefs. And I do feel we'll lose that as well because you won't have the chance to grow those sort of specific quirks in the workforce because it'll all be kind of automated out.
Yes, and I think that will be that's the rise of this blandness that we see in content, which bear with me, but what we see, that automation thing that you've just talked about, and we'd lose those quirks, etc. We've seen that on platforms like LinkedIn. We've seen the content be exactly the same all the time, the same turns of phrase, the same expressions that are used. I was horrified when I went to a really big conference recently that we were speaking at. to listen to the speeches and to realize that like 50% of the presentations that I was listening to had all just been written by AI.
Oh, the conference world has just got more and more boring, hasn't it?
And I honestly, I was listening to it and it started great. This woman was a really good presenter. She obviously, because AI had written the script, there were some great bold opening slides. I sort of sat up and was like, great, this is going to be the one thing that I'm going to take away. The thing finished. And once it was done, I was just like, what was that about?
What did I hear?
And I couldn't tell you really what it was about because it was just filled with empty, sloganistic copy that she was presenting well, but ultimately there was no moment there for me to take away. And it was the first time that as someone who loves and works with AI, it was the first time that I thought, next time I do a speaking gig, I'm just not going to use it in that way, because I use it to help me work out my metaphors, whatever it might be. But the actual crafting of that speech needs to come from you.
It's the human story.
Yeah.
It's the human story that illustrate your point, that people connect with. You watch any TED talk and they give you something of themselves.
Exactly.
It's never abstract. It's never about the industry or the problem. It's the problem told through, or the industry problem told through a personal lens.
And I know that the people, like when you go to a big conference like that, the ones that will stand out the most will be the ones that haven't done that. But if we were to bring this back to our topic of the next gen and grads, etc., I know that a graduate could practice a kick-ass speech or whatever they were doing, a pitch, whatever, for a project, using AI to script it, and they could be polished and perfect in the moment, or they could go away and use their brain and use their charm and practice and use their skills and respond to the people in the room. And I know which one I would rather listen to and be pitched to. I know it would be the one that hasn't had AI do every single bit of it.
You want the exciting, disruptive, quirky, all singing, all dancing pitch that you remember.
Yeah. And I think that for me is the challenge for employers now, is if we are using AI to rid us of our entry-level operational burden, what are we doing to create a different L&D landscape for our colleagues? How are we actually helping those people learn and grow and be what we need to be with AI as one of the tools in their toolbox, not the only tool they can rely on?
Exactly.
And I would love to see forward-thinking businesses looking at their curriculum of learning now. AI is obviously a huge part of it, but where are all the other bits that when you bring them together, that's when you 10x your impact, not just when you've used AI alone.
And when do you throw them in those real world scenarios
Totally.
and give them that rich experience of failing as well, or potentially failing? Maybe they don't. Maybe they sink or swim.
Yeah.
But all of that richness that I got on my internship, that was from putting me in human scenarios where I was out of my depth and seeing what I did with it. Love to see more of that.
Me too.
It's an interesting time.
It's a really interesting time, and I think it's with AI has disrupted everything. What we all need to do now is react to it and make sure that our processes, our systems, the design of our cultures is responding to an AI literate workforce. That doesn't just mean adding AI to everything we do or bringing an AI bot in to HR. It means looking holistically at the experiences we're giving our people and to make sure they're still getting a well-rounded experience when they learn and grow and hopefully stay with us.
It's the perfect opportunity for those entry-level roles to be completely reimagined instead of reduced.
Agreed.
Love it.
Well, thanks. Great conversation.
Good. We got fired up. I told you.
Yeah, you did say you had something on your mind. So yeah, it was good. And let's do it again sometime.
Love it.